Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we get a chance to dance down the aisle with Srila Prabhupada, meaning we get to be with him forever. Right? That's what it means, right? Take the vow. Be with Prabhupada forever. Read the book. Yeah, Sarganagati. Be with Prabhupada every day like this and hear his purports direct. And I was about to say that I heard my dear godbrother, senior godbrother, Satsrup Maharaj say, when there was something floating around in India from different kind of places and different old Indian gurus and stuff, he said famously, "I'll take my Srila Prabhupada straight, thank you." This is Nandasuno, in case those of you who don't know. Hare Krishna. You probably already met him anyway. This is Nandasuna. This is Bhaktinate. Hare Krishna. And they've come down from New Badrik Ashram. Okay. Thank you all for joining us today. And it's a joyous day. We have a whole room full of Vaishnavas from all over the world here who have come together to hear the Bhagavatam spoken by Srila Prabhupada. But first we start by reciting the prayer offered to the Srimad-Bhagavatam by Srila Sanatana Goswami, which is, as far as I've read, the most beautiful and comprehensive prayer glorifying the Bhagavatam that exists. It's Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, and it goes like this. Sarva Shastra Vipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarvalokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwan Doditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Marika Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin adini chochatakara hanamun chagadachinmam prem narit kantayospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we've reached the 9th chapter of the 9th canto. Moving right along to the 10th canto, the smiling face of Krishna. And last couple of days, we heard about Anshuman, who was very tricky. He got out of being a human sacrifice by going here and going there and doing this and doing that. So now we're going to hear about the dynasty of Anshuman. This chapter describes the history of the dynasty of Anshuman up to Katvanga. And it also describes how Bhagirath brought the water of the Ganges to the earth. The son of Maharaj Anshuman was Dilipa, who tried to bring the Ganges to this world, but who died without success. Bhagirath, the son of Dilipa, was determined to bring the Ganges to the material world, and for this purpose, he underwent severe austerities. Mother Ganges, being fully satisfied by his austerities, made himself visible to him, wanting to give him a benediction. Now, are you going early to the thing today?
No.
You're not. You're with us today. Okay. Hare Krishna. Welcome. Welcome home. Hare Krishna. The son of Maharaj Anshuman was Dilipa, who tried to bring the Ganges to this world, but who died without success. Bhagirath, the son of Dilipa, was determined to bring the Ganges to the material world, and for this purpose he underwent severe austerities. Mother Ganges, being fully satisfied by his austerities, made herself visible to him, wanting to give him a benediction. Bhagirath then asked her to deliver his forefathers. Although Mother Ganges agreed to come down to earth, she made two conditions. First, she wanted some suitable male to be able to control her waves. Second, although all sinful men would be freed from sinful reactions by bathing in the Ganges, Mother Ganges did not want to keep all these sinful reactions. These two conditions were subject matters for consideration. Bhagirath replied to Mother Ganges, "The personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva, will be completely able to control the waves of your water. And when pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions left by sinful men will be counteracted." Ashutosh, because he is naturally satisfied very easily. Bhagirath then performed austerity to satisfy Lord Shiva, who was called Ashutosh, because he is naturally satisfied very easily. Lord Shiva agreed to Bhagirath's proposal to check the force of the Ganges. In this way, simply by the touch of the Ganges, Bhagirath's forefathers were delivered and allowed to go to the heavenly planets. The son of Bhagirath was Shuta. The son of Shuta was Nabha, and Nabha's son was Sindhu Dweep. The son of Sindhu Dweep was Ayutayu, and the son of Ayutayu was Rituparna, who was a friend of Nala. Rituparna gave Nala the art of gambling and learned from him the art of Ashwavidya. The son of Rituparna was known as Sarvakama. The son of Sarvakama was Sudasa, and his son was Saudasa. The wife of Saudasa was named Damayanti or Madhyanti, and Saudasa was also known as Kamalashapada. Because of some defect in his fruitive activities, Saudasa was cursed by Vishishta to become a Rakshasa. While walking through the forest, he saw a Brahmana engaged in sex with his wife, and because he had become a Rakshasa, he wanted to devour the Brahmana. Although the Brahmana's wife pleaded with him in many ways, Saudasa devoured the Brahmana, and the wife therefore cursed him, saying, "As soon as you engage in sex, you will die." After 12 years, therefore, even though Saudasa was released from the curse of Vishishta Muni, he remained sonless. At that time, with Saudasa's permission, Vishishta impregnated Saudasa's wife, Madhyanti. Because Madhyanti bore the child for many years, but still could not give birth, Vishishta struck her abdomen with a stone, and thus the son was born. The son was named Ashmaka. The son of Ashmaka was known as Balika. He was protected from the curse of Parashuram because of being surrounded by many women, and therefore he is also known as Nari Kavacha. When the entire world was devoid of Kshatriyas, he became the original father of more Kshatriyas. He is therefore sometimes called Mulaka. From Balika, Dasharat was born. From Dasharat came Idavidi, and from Idavidi became Vishwasaha. The son of Vishwasaha was Maharaj Katvanga. Maharaj Katvanga joined the demigods in fighting the demons and was victorious. And the demigods therefore wanted to give him a benediction. But when the king inquired how long he would live and understood that his life would last only a few seconds more, he immediately left the heavenly planets and returned to his own abode by airplane. He could understand that everything in this material world is insignificant, and thus he fully engaged in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. Hari. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami continued. King Anshuman, like his grandfather, performed austerities for a very long time. Nonetheless, he could not bring the Ganges to this material world, and therefore, in due course of time, he died. Text 2. Like Anshuman himself, Dilipa, his son, was unable to bring the Ganges to this material world, and he also became a victim of death in due course of time. Then Dilipa's son, Bhagirath, performed very severe austerities to bring the Ganges to this material world. Text 3. Isn't Bhakti Chris beautiful? Mm-hmm. Would anybody agree? Let's have a show of hands. But for all of you out in cyberspace, for all of you out Bhakti Chris shaved up day as a gift for my birthday tomorrow. So when I saw him, I said, "Who are you?" No.
That's the same thing I said.
Yeah.
Like, what's her name?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Nicest gift I ever got. Thereafter, Mother Ganges appeared before King Bhagirath and said, "I am very much satisfied with your austerities, and I am now prepared to give you benedictions as you desire." Being thus addressed by Ganga Devi, Mother Ganges, the king bowed his head before her and explained his desire. Purport. The king's desire was to deliver his forefathers, who had been burnt to ashes because of disrespecting Kapila Muni. Remember that story? Those sons? Yeah. Text 4. Mother Ganges replied, "When I fall from the sky to the surface of the planet Earth, the water will certainly be very forceful. Who will sustain that force? If I am not sustained, I shall pierce the surface of the earth and go down to Rasatala and Patala area of the universe." Text 5. O king, I do not wish to go down to the planet Earth, for there the people in general will bathe in my water to cleanse themselves of the reactions of their sinful deeds. When all these sinful reactions accumulate in me, how shall I become free from them? You must consider this very carefully. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja Ahang Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Mokshayishami Ma Shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 18:66. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can accept the reactions of anyone's sinful deeds and neutralize them because he is pavitra, pure, like the sun, which is never contaminated by any worldly infection. Tejiya sang na doshaya vane sarva bhujya yata. Bhagavatam 10:33-29. One who is very powerful is not affected by any sinful activity. But here we see that Mother Ganges fears being burdened with the sins of the people in general who would bathe in her waters. This indicates that no one but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is able to neutralize the reactions of sinful deeds, whether one's own or those of others. Sometimes the spiritual master, after accepting a disciple, must take charge of that disciple's past sinful activities, and being overloaded must sometimes suffer, if not fully, then partially, for the sinful acts of the disciple. Every disciple, therefore, must be very careful not to commit sinful activities after initiation. The poor spiritual master is kind and merciful enough to accept the disciple and partially suffer for that disciple's sinful activities. But Krishna, being merciful to his servant, neutralizes the reactions of sinful deeds for the servant who engages in preaching his glories. Even Mother Ganges feared the sinful reactions of the people in general and was anxious about how she would counteract the burden of these sins. Text 6. Bhagirath said, "Those who are saintly because of devotional service, and are therefore in the renounced order, free from material desires, and who are pure devotees, expert in following the regulative principles mentioned in the Vedas, are always glorious and pure in behavior, and are able to deliver all fallen souls. When such pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions accumulated from other people will certainly be counteracted. For such devotees always keep in the core of their hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can vanquish all sinful reactions." So if you want to help purify the world, keep Krishna in your heart all the time, and then automatically you'll help purify the world. Purport. Mother Ganges is available for everyone for bathing. Therefore, not only will sinful persons bathe in the Ganges water, but in Hardwar and other holy places where the Ganges flows, saintly persons and devotees will also bathe in the waters of the Ganges. Devotees and saintly persons advanced in the renounced order can deliver even the Ganges. Tirti kurvanti tirtani swantak stena gadabrita. Bhagavatam 1:13-10. Because saintly devotees always keep the Lord within the core of their hearts, they can perfectly cleanse the holy places of all sinful reactions. Therefore, people in general must always respectfully honor saintly persons. It is ordered that as soon as one sees a Vaishnava, or even a sannyasi, one should immediately offer respect to such a holy man. If one forgets to show respect in this way, one must observe the fast for that day. This is a Vedic injunction. One must be extremely careful to refrain from committing offenses at the lotus feet of a devotee or saintly person. There are methods of prayaschita, or atonement, prayaschita, or atonement, but they are inadequate to cleanse one of sinful reactions. One can be cleansed of sinful reactions only by devotional service, as stated in regard to the history of Ajamyo. Kichit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayanaha agam dunvanti kartsnyeya yena niharam ivavaskaraha. Only a rare person who has adopted complete, unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Bhagavatam 6:1-15. If one is under the protection of a devotee and sincerely renders service unto him, by this process of bhakti yoga, one is certainly able to counteract all sinful reactions. Text 7. Like a cloth woven of threads extending for its length and breadth. This entire universe, in all its latitude and longitude, is situated under different potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the incarnation of the Lord, and thus he represents the Supersoul in the embodied soul. He can sustain your forceful waves on his head. Purport. The water of the Ganges is supposed to rest on the head of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who sustains the entire universe by different potencies. Lord Shiva is described in the Brahma Samhita 545. Chidam yata dadivikara vishesha yogat sanjayate nahitatak prakadestika hetoho yak sambhutam apitata samupaitikaryad govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Milk changes into yogurt when mixed with a yogurt culture, but actually yogurt is constitutionally nothing but milk. Similarly, Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, assumes the form of Lord Shiva for the special purpose of material transactions. I offer my obeisances at Lord Govinda's lotus feet. Lord Shiva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the same sense that yogurt is also milk, although at the same time it is not milk. For the maintenance of the material world there are three incarnations: Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is Vishnu in an incarnation for the mode of ignorance. The material world exists predominantly in the mode of ignorance. Therefore Lord Shiva is compared here to the longitude and latitude of the entire universe, which resembles a cloth woven of threads extending for both its length and breadth. Text 8. After saying this, Bhagirath satisfied Lord Shiva by performing austerities. O King Parikshit, Lord Shiva was very quickly satisfied with Bhagirath. Purport. The words Ashvatushvata indicate that Lord Shiva was satisfied very soon. Therefore, another name for Lord Shiva is Ashutosha. Materialistic persons become attached to Lord Shiva because Lord Shiva bestows benedictions upon anyone and everyone very quickly, not caring to know how his devotees prosper or suffer. Although materialistic persons know that material happiness is nothing but another side of suffering, they want it. And to get it very quickly, they worship Lord Shiva. We find that materialists are generally devotees of many demigods, especially Lord Shiva and Mother Durga. They do not actually want spiritual happiness, for it is almost unknown to them. But if one is serious about being happy spiritually, he must take shelter of Lord Vishnu, as the Lord personally demands. Sarvadharman parityaja mamikam sharanam braja aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayishami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 1866. Text 9. When King Bhagirath approached Lord Shiva and requested him to sustain the forceful waves of the Ganges, Lord Shiva accepted the proposal by saying, "Let it be so." Then, with great attention, he is to sustain the Ganges on his head, for the water of the Ganges is purifying, having emanated from the toes of Lord Vishnu. Text 10. The great and saintly King Bhagirath brought the Ganges, which can deliver all the fallen souls, to that place on earth where the bodies of his forefathers lay burnt to ashes. Text 11. Bhagirath mounted a swift chariot and drove before Mother Ganges, who followed him, purifying many countries until they reached the ashes of Bhagirath's forefathers. the sons of Sagara, who were thus sprinkled with water from the Ganges. Text 12. Because the sons of Sagara Maharaj had offended a great personality, the heat of their bodies had increased and they were burnt to ashes. But simply by being sprinkled with water from the Ganges, all of them became eligible to go to the heavenly planets. What then is to be said of those who use the water of Mother Ganges to worship her? Purport. Mother Ganges is worshipped by the water of the Ganges. A devotee takes a little water from the Ganges and offers it back to the Ganges. When the devotee takes the water, Mother Ganges does not lose anything. And when the water is offered back, Mother Ganges does not increase, but in that way, the worshipper of the Ganges is benefited. Similarly, a devotee of the Lord offers the Lord patram, pushpam, palam, toyam, a leaf, flower, fruit, or water, in great devotion, but everything, including the leaf, flower, fruit, and water, belongs to the Lord, and therefore there is nothing to renounce or to accept. One must simply take advantage of the bhakti process, because by following this process, one does not lose anything, but gains the favor of the Supreme Person. Prabhupada ki jai. Text 13. Simply by having water from the Ganges come in contact with the ashes of their burnt bodies, the sons of Sagara Maharaj were elevated to the heavenly planets. Therefore, what is to be said of a devotee who worships Mother Ganges faithfully with a determined vow? One can only imagine the benefit that accrues to such a devotee. Text 14. Because Mother Ganges emanates from the lotus toe of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Anantadev, she is able to liberate one from material bondage. Therefore, whatever is described herewith about her is not at all wonderful. Purport. It has actually been seen that anyone who regularly worships Mother Ganges simply by bathing in her water keeps very good health and gradually becomes a devotee of the Lord. This is the effect of bathing in the water of the Ganges. Bathing in the Ganges is recommended in all Vedic Shastras, and one who takes to this path will certainly be completely freed from all sinful reactions. The practical example of this is that the sons of Maharaj Sagara went to the heavenly planets when water from the Ganges merely touched the ashes of their burnt bodies. Text 15. Great sages, completely freed from material lusty desires, devote their minds fully to the service of the Lord. Such persons are liberated from material bondage without difficulty, and they become transcendentally situated, acquiring the spiritual quality of the Lord. This is the glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 16 and 17. Bhagirath had a son named Shruta, whose son was Nabha. This son was different from the Nabha previously described. Nabha had a son named Sindhudvip. From Sindhudvip came Ayutayu, and from Ayutayu came Rituparna, who became a friend of Nalaraj. Rituparna taught Nalaraj the art of gambling, and Nalaraj gave Rituparna lessons in controlling and maintaining horses. The son of Rituparna was Sarvakama. Purport. Gambling is also an art. Kshatriyas are allowed to exhibit talent in this art of gambling. By the grace of Krishna, the Pandavas lost everything by gambling and were deprived of their kingdom, wife, family, and home because they were not expert in the gambling arts. By the grace of Krishna. In other words, a devotee may not be expert in materialistic activities. It is therefore advised in the Vedas, in the Shastra, that materialistic activities are not at all suitable for the living entities, especially the devotees. A devotee should therefore be satisfied to eat whatever is sent as prasad by the Supreme Lord. A devotee remains pure because he does not take to sinful activities such as gambling, intoxication, meat eating, and illicit sex. Let's make an experiment. Go down to the, what do they call it? The thermostat, down there outside my room doors, and put it down to 74. See what happens. I have a feeling. I'm just getting a feeling. Okay. Text 18. Sarvakama had a son named Sudasa, whose son, known as Saudasa, was the husband of Damayanti. Saudasa is sometimes known as Mitrashaha or Kamashapada. Because of his own misdeed, Mitrasaha was sonless and was cursed by Vasishta to become a man-eater, Rakshasa. Text 19. King Parikshit said, O Shukadev Goswami, why did Vasishta, the spiritual master of Saudasa, curse that great soul? I wish to know of this. If it is not a confidential matter, please describe it to me. Text 20 and 21. Shukadev Goswami said, once Saudasa went to live in the forest, where he killed a man-eater, Rakshasa, but forgave and released the man-eater's brother. That brother, however, decided to take revenge. Thinking to harm the king, he became the cook at the king's house. One day the king's spiritual master, Vasishta Muni, was invited for dinner, and the Rakshasa cook served him human flesh. Ouch. Oops. 22. While examining the food given to him, Vasishta Muni, by his mystic power, could understand that it was unfit to eat, being the flesh of a human being. He was very angry at this and immediately cursed Saudasa to become a man-eater. 23 and 24. When Vasishta understood that the human flesh had been served by the Rakshasa and not by the king, he undertook 12 years of austerity to cleanse himself for having cursed the faultless king. Meanwhile, King Saudasa took water and chanted the Shapa mantra, preparing to curse Vasishta. But his wife, let's not go to the heavenly planets, I mean, these things are going on. But his wife, Madhyanti, forbade him to do so. Then the king saw that the 10 directions, the sky, and the surface of the globe were full of living entities everywhere. Text 25, Brahman realization. Saudasa thus acquired the propensity of a man-eater and received on his leg a black spot, for which he was known as Kalmashapada. Once King Kalmashapada saw a Brahmana couple engaged in sexual intercourse in the forest. Text 26 and 27. Being influenced by the propensity of a Rakshasa and being very hungry, King Saudasa seized the Brahmana. Then the poor woman, the Brahmana's wife, said to the king, O hero, you are not actually a man-eater. Rather, you are among the descendants of Maharaj Ikshvaku. Indeed, you are a great fighter, the husband of Madhyanti. You should not act irreligiously in this way. I desire to have a son. Please, therefore, return my husband, who has not yet impregnated me. Text 28. O king, O hero, this human body is meant for universal benefits. If you kill this body untimely, you will kill all the benefits of human life. Purport. Srila Narottam Das Thakur is sung, Hari Hari Vipale Janame Gunayanu Manushya Janamapoya Radha Krishna Nabhijya Janiya Shuniya Bisha Kainu. The body of a human being is extremely valuable because in this body one can understand the instructions of Krishna and attain the ultimate destination of the living entity. The living entity is within the material world to fulfill the mission of going back home, back to Godhead. In the material world, one hankers for happiness, but because one does not know the ultimate destination, one changes bodies one after another. However, if one gets the opportunity to possess a human form of body, in this body he can fulfill the four principles of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And if one is properly regulated, he makes further progress after liberation to engage in the service of Radha and Krishna. This is the success of life. To stop the process of repeated birth and death and go back home, back to Godhead, Mam A.T., to be engaged in the service of Radha and Krishna. Therefore, taking a human body is meant for completing one's progress in life. Throughout human society, killing of a human being is taken very seriously. Hundreds and thousands of animals are killed in slaughterhouses, and no one cares about them. But the killing of even one human being is taken very seriously. Why? Because the human form of body is extremely important in executing the mission of life. Text 29. Here is a learned, highly qualified Brahmana engaged in performing austerity and eagerly desiring to worship the Supreme Lord, the Supersoul who lives within the core of the heart of all living entities. Purport. The wife of the Brahmana did not regard her husband as a superficial Brahmana, who was called a Brahmana merely because he was born of a Brahmana family. Rather, this Brahmana was actually qualified with the Brahminical symptoms. Yasya yal lakshanam proktam, Bhagavatam 7:11-35. The symptoms of a Brahmana are stated in Shastra. Shemodamas tapakshocham chantir arjavameva cha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahmakarma sabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and religiousness. These are the qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Bhagavad Gita 18:42. Not only must a Brahmana be qualified, but he must also engage in actual Brahminical activities. Simply to be qualified is not enough. One must engage in a Brahmana's duties. The duty of a Brahmana is to know the Param Brahma, Krishna, Param Brahma Param Dhamma Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. Because this Brahmana was actually qualified and was also engaged in Brahminical activities, Brahma Karma, killing him would be a greatly sinful act, and the Brahmana's wife requested that he not be killed. Text 30. My Lord, you are completely aware of the religious principles. As a son never deserves to be killed by his father, here is a Brahmana who should be protected by the king and never killed. How does he deserve to be killed by a Rajarshi like you? Purport. The word Rajarshi refers to a king who behaves like a rishi or sage. Such a king is called Naradeva because he is considered a representative of the Supreme Lord, because his duty is to rule the kingdom, to maintain Brahminical culture, but he never desires to kill a Brahmana. Generally, a Brahmana, woman, child, old man, or cow is never regarded as punishable. Thus, the wife of the Brahmana requested the king to refrain from this sinful act. Text 31. You are well known and worshipped in learned circles. How dare you kill this Brahmana, who is a saintly, sinless person, well versed in Vedic knowledge? Killing him would be like destroying the embryo within the womb or killing the cow. Purport. As stated in the Amarakosha dictionary, Brunor Bake Balagarbe, The word bruni refers either to the cow or to the living entity in embryo. Interesting. Brunor bake bala garbe. The word bruna refers either to the cow or to the living entity in embryo. According to Vedic culture, destroying the undeveloped embryo of the soul in the womb is as sinful as killing a cow or a brahmana. In the embryo, the living entity is present in an undeveloped stage. The modern scientific theory that life is a combination of chemicals is nonsense. Scientists cannot manufacture living beings, even like those born from eggs. The idea that scientists can develop a chemical situation resembling that of an egg and bring life from it is nonsensical. Their theory that a chemical combination can have life may be accepted, but these rascals cannot create such a combination. This verse refers to brunasya vadam, the killing of a bruna, or destruction of the embryo. Here is a challenge from the Vedic literature. The crude, atheistic understanding that the living entity is a combination of matter belongs to the grossest ignorance. Text 32. Without my husband, I cannot live for a moment. If you want to eat my husband, it would be better to eat me first, for without my husband, I am as good as a dead body. Purport. In the Vedic culture, there is a system known as sati, or sahamarana, in which a woman dies with her husband. According to this system, if the husband dies, the wife will voluntarily die by falling in the blazing funeral pyre of her husband. Here in this verse, the feelings inherent in this culture are expressed by the wife of the Brahmana. A woman without a husband is like a dead body. Therefore, according to Vedic culture, a girl must be married. This is the responsibility of her father. A girl may be given in charity, and a husband may have more than one wife, but a girl must be married. This is Vedic culture. A woman is supposed to be always dependent. In her childhood, she is dependent on her father, in youth on her husband, and in old age on her elder sons, or spiritual masters or temples. According to Manu Samhita, she is never independent. Independence for a woman means miserable life. In this age, so many girls are unmarried and falsely imagining themselves free, but their life is miserable. Here is an instance in which a woman felt that without her husband, she was nothing but a dead body. Text 33. Being condemned by the curse of Vasishta, King Saradas devoured the Brahmana exactly as a tiger eats its prey. Even though the Brahmana's wife spoke so pitiably, Saudasa was unmoved by her lamentation. Purport. This is an example of destiny. King Saradas was condemned by the curse of Vasishta, and therefore, even though he was well qualified, he could not restrain himself from being a tiger-like Rakshasa, for this was his destiny. Ta labhyate dukhabad anyatak sukham. Bhagavatam 1, 5, 18. If one is put into distress by destiny, destiny can also put one in a happy situation. Destiny is extremely strong, but one can change destiny if one comes to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Karmani nir dahati kintu chabakti bhajam. Brahma Samhita 5:54. Text 34. When the chaste wife of a Brahmana saw that her husband, who was about to discharge semen, had been eaten by the man-eater, she was overwhelmed with grief and lamentation. Thus, she angrily cursed the king. Text 35. O foolish, sinful person, because you have eaten my husband when I was sexually inclined and desired to have the seed of a child, I shall also see you die when you attempt to discharge semen in your wife. In other words, whenever you attempt to sexually unite with your wife, you shall die. Text 36. Thus the wife of the Brahmana cursed the king Saudas known as Mitra Saha. Then, being inclined to go with her husband, she set fire to her husband's bones, fell into the fire herself, and went with him to the same destination. Text 37. After 12 years, when King Saudasa was released from the curse by Vishishta, he wanted to have sexual intercourse with his wife, but the queen reminded him about the curse of the Brahmani, and thus he was checked from sexual intercourse. Text 38. After being thus instructed, the king gave up the future happiness of sexual intercourse and by destiny remained sonless. Later, with the king's permission, the great saint Vishishta begot a child in the womb of Marianti. Text 39. Huh?
It's going full circle now.
Full circle. Marianti bore the child within the womb for 7 years and did not give birth. Therefore Vasishtha struck her abdomen with a stone, and when the child was born, consequently the child was known as Ashmaka, the child born of a stone. Text 40. From Ashmaka, Balika took birth. Because Balika was surrounded by women and was therefore saved from the anger of Parashuram, he was known as Narikavacha, one who was protected by women. When Parashuram vanquished all the Kshatriyas, Balika became the progenitor of more Kshatriyas. Therefore he was known as Mulika, the root of the Kshatriya dynasty. Text 41. From Balika came a son named Dasharat. From Dashrath came a son named Idavidi, and from Idavidi came King Vishwasaha. The son of King Vishwasaha was the famous Maharaj Katvanga. Text 42. King Katvanga was unconquerable in any fight. Requested by the demigods to join them in fighting the demons, he won victory, and the demigods, being very pleased, wanted to give him a benediction. The king inquired from them about the duration of his life and was informed that he had only 1 moment more. Thus he immediately left the heavenly planets and went to his own residence, where he engaged his mind fully on the lotus feet of the Lord. Purport. The example of Maharaj Katvanga in performing devotional service is brilliant. Maharaj Katvanga engaged himself for only a moment in devotional service to the Lord, but he was promoted back to Godhead. Therefore, if one practices devotional service from the beginning of his life, surely he will return home, back to Godhead, without a doubt. Asangshaya. In Bhagavad Gita, the word asangshaya is used to describe the devotee. There the Lord himself gives this instruction: Maya saktamana partha yogam yunjan madashraya asamshayam samagram mam yata gyasya sitachtrinu. Now hear, O son of Pritha, Arjuna, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Bhagavad Gita 7.1. The Lord also instructs, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatpataha chaktudeham punarjanma naitimam iti sorjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Therefore, from the very beginning of one's life, one should practice bhakti yoga, which increases one's attachment for Krishna. If one daily sees the deity in the temple, makes offerings by worshipping the deity, chants the holy name of the personality of Godhead, and preaches about the glorious activities of the Lord as much as possible, he thus becomes attached to Krishna. This attachment is called asakti. When one's mind is attached to Krishna, Maya Saktamana, one can fulfill the mission of life in one human birth. If one misses this opportunity, one does not know where he is going, how long he will remain in the cycle of birth and death, and when he will again achieve the human form of life and the chance to return home, back to Godhead. The most intelligent person, therefore, uses every moment of his life to render loving service to the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What a wonderful purport. Text 43. Maharaj Katvanga thought, not even my life is dearer to me than the Brahminical culture and the Brahmanas, who are worshipped by my family. What then is to be said of my kingdom, land, wife, children, and opulence? Nothing is dearer to me than the Brahmanas. Purport. Maharaj Katvanga, being in favor of the Brahminical culture, wanted to utilize one moment's time by fully surrendering under the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is worshipped with this prayer. Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmanahitaya Cha, Jagadhitaya Krishnaya, Govindaya Namo Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Truth, Krishna, who is the well-wisher of the cows and the Brahmanas, as well as living entities in general. I offer my repeated obeisances to Govinda, who is the pleasure reservoir for all the senses. A devotee of Krishna is very much attached to Brahminical culture. Indeed, an expert personality who knows who Krishna is and what he wants is a real Brahmana. Brahma Janatiti Brahmana. Krishna is Parabrahman, and therefore all Krishna conscious persons or devotees of Krishna are exalted Brahmanas. Katvanga Maharaj regarded the devotees of Krishna as the real Brahmanas and the real light for human society. One who desires to advance in Krishna consciousness and spiritual understanding must give the utmost importance to Brahminical culture and must understand Krishna, Krishnaya Govindaya. Then his life will be successful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we'll close our reading for tonight and have some reflections.
One or two more pages.
Really?
Yeah.
We will go forward by the mercy of the Brahmanas who are advising me. Text 44. I'm just your puppet. Just tell me what to do. 44. I was never attracted, even in my childhood, by insignificant things or irreligious principles. I did not find anything more substantial than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. It's a few long purports. They tricked me. They tricked me. There's only 2-3 more verses, Maharaj. Of course, there's 7 pages. Okay. Purport. Maharaj Katvanga provides a typical example of a Krishna conscious person. A Krishna conscious person does not see anything to be important but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor does he accept anything within this material world as being unconnected to the Supreme Lord. As stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 8:274, Stavara Jangamadeke Na Deki Taramurti Sarvatra Haya Nija Ishta Deva Spurti. The Mahabhagavata, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything, mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. Although a devotee is within the material world, he has no connection with it. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. He accepts the material world in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee may be engaged in earning money, but he uses the money for propagating the Krishna consciousness movement by constructing large temples and establishing worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Khatvanga Maharaj, therefore, was not a materialist. A materialist is always attached to wife, children, home, with property, and many other things for sense gratification. But as stated above, Khatvanga Maharaj was not attached to such things, nor could he think of anything existing without the purpose of the Supreme Lord. Ishabasyamidang sarvam. Everything is related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, this consciousness is not for the ordinary person, but if one takes to the path of devotional service, as prescribed in the Nectar of Devotion, he can be trained in this consciousness and attain perfect understanding. For a Krishna conscious person, nothing is palatable without a relationship with Krishna. Text 45. Haribol. Text 45. The demigods, the directors of the three worlds, wanted to give me whatever benediction I desired. I did not want their benedictions, however, because I am interested in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who created everything in this material world. I am more interested in the Supreme Personality of Godhead than in all material benedictions. Purport. A devotee is always transcendentally situated. Param drishtva nivartate. One who has seen the Supreme Personality of Godhead is no longer interested in material sense enjoyment. Even such an exalted devotee as Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest for the sake of material benefit. But when he actually saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he refused to accept any material benediction. He said, Swamin kritartosmi badam nayache. My dear Lord, I am fully satisfied with whatever you have given me or not given me. I have nothing to ask from you, for I am fully satisfied to engage in your service. This is the mentality of a pure devotee who does not want anything, material or spiritual, from the personality of Godhead. Our Krishna consciousness movement is therefore called Krishna Bhavanamrita Sangha, the association of persons who are simply satisfied in thoughts of Krishna. Being absorbed in thoughts of Krishna is neither expensive nor troublesome. Krishna says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Bhagavad Gita 9:34. Anyone can always think of Krishna without difficulties or obstacles. This is called Krishna Bhavanamrita. One who is absorbed in Krishna Bhavanamrita has no material benefits to ask from Krishna. Instead, such a person prays to the Lord for the benediction of being able to spread his glories all over the world. Mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhaktir ahaituki twayi. A Krishna conscious person does not even want to stop his cycle of birth and death. He simply prays, I may take birth as you like, but my only prayer is that I may be engaged in your service. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Purport after purport. It's just, you notice that at the end of the chapters, the purports just get thicker and sweeter and thicker and sweeter, till he leaves you breathless, or full of breath, rather. 46. Even though the demigods have the advantages of being situated in the higher planetary system, their minds, senses, and intelligence are agitated by material conditions. Therefore, even such elevated persons fail to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is eternally situated in the core of the heart. What then is to be said of others, such as human beings, who have fewer advantages? I mean, notice how systematic this is. We just heard about all these things. One sage cursing another one, and the wife cursing and the husband getting eaten by one, and this and that. You know? It says right here, therefore elevated persons, eternally situated, they're not agitated by material conditions. Purport. It is a fact that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always situated in everyone's heart. Ishvara sarvabhutanam riddhisharjana tishtati. But because of our material anxieties, which are inevitable in this material world, we cannot understand the Supreme Lord, although He is situated so near to us. For those always agitated by material conditions, the yogic process is recommended so that one may concentrate his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead within the heart. Dhyana vasti tatadgatena manasa pashyantiyam yoginaha. Because in material conditions, the mind and senses are always agitated by the yogic procedures like dharana, asana, and dhyana, one must quiet the mind and concentrate it upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, the yogic process is a material attempt to realize the Lord, whereas bhakti, devotional service, is the spiritual process by which to realize Him. Maharaj Katvanga accepted the spiritual path, and therefore he was no longer interested in anything material. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18:55, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. Only by devotional service can I be understood. One can understand Krishna, the Parabrahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only through devotional service. The Lord never says that one can understand Him by performing mystic yoga or by philosophically speculating. Bhakti is above all such material attempts. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karma janavritam. Bhakti is uncontaminated, being unalloyed, even by jnana or pious activities. How many more we have to go?
Three verses.
It tricked me. But it's okay. It's okay. I just wanted to give others a chance to reflect. Text 47. Therefore, I should now give up my attachment for things created by the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I should engage in the thought of the Lord and should thus surrender unto Him. This material creation, having been created by the external energy of the Lord, is like an imaginary town visualized on a hill or in a forest. Every conditioned soul has a natural attraction and attachment for material things, but one must simply give up this attachment and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. When passing through a mountainous region in an airplane, one may sometimes see a city in the sky with towers and palaces, or one may see similar things in a big forest. This is called a Gandharvapur, a phantasmagoria. This entire world resembles such a phantasmagoria, and even materially situated person has attachment for it. But Katvanga Maharaj, because of his advanced Krishna consciousness, was not interested in such things. Even though a devotee may engage in apparently materialistic activities, he knows his position very well. Nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchate. If one engages all material things in relation with the loving service of the Lord, one is situated in yukta vairagya, proper renunciation. In this material world, one is situated in this material world. Nothing should be accepted for one's sense gratification. Everything should be accepted for the service of the Lord. This is the mentality of the spiritual world. Maharaj Katvanga advises that one give up material attachments and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus one achieves success in life. This is pure bhakti yoga, which involves vairagya vidya, renunciation and knowledge. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga, shikshartame kak purushang puranaha, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dari, Kripam Buddhir Yastamaham Prapadye. Let me surrender under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has appeared now as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the ocean of all mercy and has come down to teach us material attachment, learning, and devotional service to himself. He is the ocean of all mercy and has come down to teach us material detachment, learning, and devotional service to himself. Chaitanya Chandrodaya, Nataka 674. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inaugurated this movement of Vairagya Vidya, by which one detaches himself from material existence and engages in loving devotional service. The Krishna consciousness movement of devotional service is the only process by which to counteract our false prestige in this material world. Text 48. Thus, Maharaj Katvanga, by his advanced intelligence in rendering service to the Lord, gave up false identification with the body full of ignorance. In his original position of eternal servitorship, he engaged himself in rendering service to the Lord. Purport. When one actually becomes purely Krishna conscious, no one has any right to rule over him. When situated in Krishna consciousness, one is no longer in the darkness of ignorance. And when freed from all such darkness, one is situated in his original position. Jivera Sarupa Hoya Krishnera Nityadas. The living entity is eternally the servant of the Lord, and thus, when he engages himself in the service of the Lord in all respects, he enjoys the perfection of life. Text 49. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, Krishna, is extremely difficult to understand for unintelligent men who accept him as impersonal or void, which he is not. The Lord is therefore understood and sung about by pure devotees. Purport. As stated in Srimad-Bhagavatam 1-11, Vadanti tat tat bavidas tat mam yaj jnanamad vayam brahmiti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabhyate. The absolute truth is realized in three phases, as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the origin of everything. Brahman is a partial representation of Bhagavan, and Vasudeva, the super soul, living everywhere and in everyone's heart, is also an advanced realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when one comes to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, when one realizes that Vasudeva is both Paramatma and the impersonal Brahman, he is then in perfect knowledge. Krishna is therefore described by Arjuna as Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. The words Param Brahma refer to the shelter of the impersonal Brahman and also of the all-pervading Supersoul. When Krishna says, Chaktvadeham Punar Janma Naiti Mam Eti, this means that the perfect devotee, after perfect realization, returns home back to Godhead. Maharaj Katvanga accepted the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because of his full surrender, he achieved perfection. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 9th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam entitled The Dynasty of Amman. Okay, now everyone can wake up. Now everyone can wake up. Wake up. Ji jago. Ji jago. Ji jago. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Go Premanandi. Okay. Okay, the teacher is going to speak.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj, for your ecstatic reading. My question is in relation to a verse which was earlier on, text 5, where Prabhupada talks about the spiritual master suffering the reactions for the disciples' sinful activities. So I have a question, because I've heard a couple of Diksha Gurus in ISKCON talk about this concept and say that the spiritual master doesn't actually take the karma of the disciples, and their arguments are...
Well, that's convenient, especially if one's a spiritual master. That's a convenient argument. Go
Would
ahead.
you like to hear the logic? Okay, so the logic number one is that karma is not a commodity that can be passed around. Each person has to take personal responsibility for their
Okay,
actions.
first of all, that's a speculation, because it's said directly in Srila Prabhupada's purports that the spiritual master does accept that. And we just heard it. So I'll tell you what the answer is. You ready?
Yeah.
Because there's an injunction by Rupa Goswami that one should not accept too many disciples. Now, what too many disciples means is different from one spiritual master to another. Both by inclination, some are not inclined to initiate any, and some are inclined to initiate thousands and tens and thousands and hundreds of thousands. So, if the devotional service in the heart of the spiritual master is hot enough, then the reactions that he accepts at the time of initiation, just like when he put the thing in the fire that burns in the fire, that fire in the heart of the spiritual master burns it, and therefore he doesn't experience anything. It is in that sense that he doesn't accept the reactions. But if he accepts too many disciples, or if he accepts a disciple that's too sinful, for him to be able to digest the reactions of that disciple's sinful reactions, then he will experience the burden of that sacrifice.
Because the thing is that, like Krishna says, that when one surrenders unto him, then Krishna frees him from all sinful reactions. So one side is that when the disciple surrenders to Krishna,
that's fully surrendered.
Through the Guru.
That's fully surrendered.
Okay. Well,
that's fully surrendered.
Yes.
To the extent that one is surrendered, to that extent, he's still liable.
Okay, so let's say that perhaps the disciple at the time of initiation is not fully surrendered.
Mam ekam shananam. All these relative concepts are all based on something different than mam ekam shananam, Braja. You can't say that therefore Krishna doesn't protect us and therefore what's wrong with this movement or what's wrong with the process. It's our business. All of these philosophies are meant to avoid the personal responsibility of our own surrender. It's all ways of, I don't know what, getting around it or getting away from it or not accepting it as it is or making it different than it actually is given.
Yeah, but I mean, from the spiritual master's side, because if the person is a guru, then let's presume that they're fully surrendered to Krishna.
There's three classes of guru: Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttam. It's recommended that you take from Uttam, but it doesn't mean that a person can't be a guru if he's not Uttam. But the law is that you take initiation from a spiritual master who is more elevated than you. That's the law.
So the guru who does suffer the reactions then, according to what you're saying, is the one who accepts a disciple who's not fully surrendered and who himself is not fully surrendered.
It's word jugglery. Accept. If your if your heart is so immersed in the fire of Krishna consciousness, that reaction gets burned. You don't accept anything.
Yeah, that's my point.
So there's
that's
no,
the whole point.
so there's no, so you don't.
So the guru is not taking, he's not getting the reaction because it's all getting burned up.
Unless he doesn't have the fire hot enough to burn it, either by taking a disciple who is too sinful that he can't accept those reactions, and he shouldn't initiate him in the first place.
Right.
So he does have to take a reaction.
Yeah.
There's many scriptural injunctions, and especially in 7th canto, I think, of Bhagavatam, where it talks about the spiritual master going to help the disciple if he initiates disciples that are unqualified.
But this is another angle on it also, that it's not the sinful reactions of the disciple that the guru takes, but the guru gets a reaction for not being able to deliver the disciple and accepting a position of guru when he cannot deliver the disciple.
Still, it's word java. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just a different way of saying the same thing.
Not really, because in that case, he's not suffering the disciple's reactions. He's suffering from his own reactions.
No.
For being irresponsible.
No, but both are there. Both are there. If the disciple, if he's taking the initiation, it initiates a disciple that's too sinful and is not even qualified, he will take that reaction.
Mm.
He will take that reaction. And both of them will go to hell. Therefore, we should be very careful before we initiate disciples. But in emergency situations, and that's what we're in, this Kali Yuga is an emergency situation. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya came and he told us, all of you become guru.
Mm-hmm.
That's the order of Lord Chaitanya.
So then if somebody who's maybe not really totally pure and surrendered takes the service of being a Diksha Guru, knowing that they're not fully qualified, but just doing it as a service to assist Lord Chaitanya in his movement to save the surrendered souls,
then he gets compensation. It's not a mechanical, this is not a mechanistic philosophy. You make conditions and they're mechanistic. No.
it's personal.
Yes. Every single incident is different, and the Lord can do anything he wants.
Mm.
And Lord Chaitanya has done that. Therefore, I just heard this story about the Muslim governor who was very sinful, a drunkard and very dangerous person, you know. And Lord Chaitanya came from Puri. He was going to Vrindavan on the first attempt to go to Vrindavan, and he wanted to go through Bengal so he could see the Ganges and his mother. So he had to pass through this area where this king was, this governor, Muslim governor, was in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Muslim governor, heard that there's this mendicant traveling around, and he's got literally millions of followers following him. And he said, oh, this could be a big deal. So he sent a spy. The spy came to see Lord Chaitanya, and just by seeing the Lord's form and watching him dance and chant, he became completely transformed. He got full-blown Krishna prema.
Mm-hmm.
Tears from the eyes, yelling, acting like a madman. And he went back to the governor, and the governor saw him and felt that energy and softened, his heart softened. And he decided that he wanted to see Lord Chaitanya for himself. So he sent back the spy, and there was a government official traveling with Lord Chaitanya from Prataparudra, and he was kind of suspicious of this guy, this governor. So when the spy came back and he said what the governor said, then he was doubtful. But then he saw the effect that Lord Chaitanya had on this spy, and he knew that the spy had gone back to see the king. And then he said, okay, all right, but he has to come with just 5 people, or 7 at the most, without weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So he went back and told the governor. The government immediately took off his royal garb and put on the dress of a Hindu person, looked like a Hindu person, and he came to see Lord Chaitanya. And as soon as he saw Lord Chaitanya, the same thing happened to him. Tears came pouring out of his eyes, and he went mad in ecstasy of love of God, and then he prayed, why did I take birth as a Muslim? Why didn't I take birth in the Hindu community? I could have gone with you, now what is my life worth? Lord Chaitanya gave him his full mercy. So the Lord can do anything. And the Lord's sitting in your heart. And this discussion is mechanistic. It's trying to make conditions, and it's trying to make something different than what it actually is.
But isn't karma kind of a mechanical thing? It's like there's laws of karma. Action,
laws of karma are
reaction.
mechanical things, but not devotional service. Devotional service is beyond the law of karma. That has to do with the Lord's will and the Lord's desire. And the desire of a devotee who's fully surrendered to the Lord. And okay, you can make it, you can say all these things, but then when everybody's mind, what happens? Then they're looking at everybody, well, is he pure enough? I don't know, am I going to be? And they get relative, they get mental about it. They get mental in the discussion, and therefore it's very difficult to find in the movement now people who are willing to surrender properly to their spiritual masters.
There's also maybe there's somebody who is kind of being pushed forward to be a spiritual master, but they're a little worried that they're going to have to suffer a lot if they take disciples and get like
Then he shouldn't.
diseases.
I mean, it's not that you have to be pushed by what? By disciples? Somebody who's pushing?
Well, maybe authorities and also
Who authorities are pushing people to become disciples? Name me one. Pushing someone to become a spiritual master. Mainly, it's disciples that are approaching and saying you have to. Although there may be instances in which a person is reluctant to take disciples because of whatever, because he's humble, and people are approaching him, and he doesn't feel like qualified, so he doesn't want to. So that's another thing. That's a spiritual event, But my experience in 47 years is that persons who push to be spiritual masters, they're generally the ones that kind of like you have to be careful of. If a person pushes himself to be the spiritual master for one reason or another, even before Prabhupada left, there were a couple who wanted to be, and it became apparent in their behavior and their words, and therefore Prabhupada, one of them he did make, another one he didn't make. Anyway, that's an old story, I won't mention names.
I mean, it does happen sometimes that other senior devotees go to a very nice devotee and say, you should be a guru, why don't you take disciples? And devotees
See, the thing is, that all this is misunderstanding of what guru is, A person may everyone has to get initiation, and they're thinking that the Diksha guru is everything. And therefore, as soon as they get initiated, they can't listen to anyone else or hear from anyone else, and they go off in their little cults in their own society within society, and won't cooperate with anybody, and won't listen to anybody except for their guru. And then even if you sit there and read to them Prabhupada's books, they just, it goes one in and out the other. But the fact is that in our disciplic succession, you may take a diksha, and everyone has to take diksha, but you may take diksha for whatever the reason is, and a little bit later on, you may meet a person who becomes your life and soul, who is not your diksha guru at all, but who's a shiksha guru. Therefore, in the first chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, called the Spiritual Masters, it's described that the diksha guru, the shiksha guru, are not different. They're not. They're equal manifestations of Krishna, but one has a different function. It's the function that's different. It's not different elevation. It's not. They're both representatives of Krishna, and this all depends on the sincerity of the person, the purity of one's heart. And Prabhupada said, I'm going to speak a little bit about this tomorrow because I don't feel qualified to be rude, but anyway, I don't want to say it tomorrow, but Srila Prabhupada spoke in a way that it wasn't difficult to become a spiritual master. But people who are into this whole Uttama Bhakta thing, and only they can be guru, and all these things, which is not true at all from Shastra, then, Prabhupada said, if you just repeat what Krishna said, you agree to repeat what Krishna said without changing it, you're a spiritual master. And whether you're Shiksha or Diksha or Vartma Pradachika, it's the same in the sense that it takes you back to Krishna, or toward Krishna at least.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So whether the spiritual master accepts it or not, devotional service is strong enough to burn the reactions. But it's clearly said in many places that the reaction that he agrees to take on, to burn the reactions. It doesn't mean that he accepts them but he can, if he takes too many, that he's not qualified to burn the reaction from his devotional service.
Isn't it though Krishna that burns them?
Yeah, but it's in response to the purity of the spiritual master also. The strength of his bhakti, the strength of his bhakti.
But wouldn't Krishna be so grateful to the devotee for taking up that important and responsible
Then
service?
now you're putting words in Krishna's mouth. Wouldn't Krishna feel like that?
Well, wouldn't
Were you
he?
speculating on what? No, you're speculating on what Krishna's going to do or not do.
No, one of his qualities is that he's grateful.
Of course, he's grateful.
So,
Of course, he's grateful. Samoham sarvabhuteshu nami dvaishasti na priyo mam nye bhajanti tamam bhaktya maite. It depends on the degree of the surrender, the level of the surrender, the depth of the surrender. It's not that because a person's not fully surrendered, it's Krishna's fault. If you go out and distribute a book and a person doesn't take the book, it's not Krishna's fault. It's not even your fault. It's the fault of that soul who is strongly enough desirous not to, that he's not going to take it. Yes, Krishna says in the 11th canto that by my will I arranged that the world be delivered by the dust of the lotus feet of my pure devotees. But in the purport, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the Lord becomes the servant of his devotee. Mm-hmm. He becomes the follower of his own devotee. If the devotee is pure, if he's completely pure, his love controls Krishna. Well, so he follows. Listen, just listen. So are you listening? Or are you making something in your mind while we're listening?
No.
Okay, you sure? You sure?
Yeah.
So then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the Lord's following the devotees. And while he's following the devotees, the wind blows the dust from his feet, in front of the devotees. The devotees walk through that dust, and therefore the dust from their feet, that is actually the dust from the Lord's feet, delivers the world.
Nice. What I was going to say is that there's a difference between being surrendered and being pure, because one might be totally surrendered but not yet pure.
Okay, so now we're getting into the difference between pure and surrendered.
Yeah, because
you got a yardstick.
Because you were saying, well, it's relevant.
You got your a protractor or a compass or something, a computer program that is going to measure. Prabhupada said, either you're Krishna conscious or you're not. But the amount of time you're spending in Krishna consciousness during the day is the percentage or the degree. Also it can be the degree. It is the determining factor as to how pure one is. If one is not completely pure, that means his desire is mixed with sense gratification, and then all these different. It's impossible to figure this out, don't you see? A conclusion about any one person in any one circumstance. Each person is different. Each circumstance is different, and even that changes along the way. So I think it's better that we don't become paralyzed by analysis, paralysis by analysis. That we don't over-analyze things. Take it from Krishna. Samoham sarvabhuteshu, but maite teshu japyaham. To the degree that a person surrenders unto me, I reward him proportionately. And everybody's different. And the Lord is different toward everyone. So it's not that, yes, there is a proportion, there is a percentage of all the things you're talking about. But you can't, if you go into it like with that calculation and start to measure everything based on intellectual, understanding, then we lose something. Whereas a simple, pure person, without those considerations, may be accepted immediately by the Lord, just by dint of his surrendered nature, fully surrendered consciousness, and the love by which he thinks of him. I think that these arguments come in when the person doesn't have full love, or isn't, when there's some anyabhilashita shunyam, jnana karma jnanavritam. To the percentage that there's desires of fruit for oneself, or the percentage that there's some tendency to enjoy the intellectual understanding of Krishna conscious philosophy. But at some point, Krishna can transcend all of that if he wants. And therefore those laws and all those proportions and everything can be wiped out immediately by Krishna if he wants. So therefore the solution is, be humble and a surrendered soul and try your best. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, even if you're not fully pure when you leave your body and you've been trying your whole life, Krishna will make it up. Yoga kshemam baham yaham. Ananya chintyanto mam ye janak payupasate tesham nitya biyuktanam yoga kshemam baham yaham. If you're lacking something, he'll provide it. If you need something, he'll maintain it. If you have something, he'll maintain it. That has to do with the relationship between the soul and Krishna. But yes, I think the ultimate answer to your question is that the guru, the original guru is Krishna. And a person who is a Vidi medium is one who agrees to repeat Krishna's words and represent Krishna purely, without personal motives. And the degree that there are personal motives, either in the spiritual master's heart or in the disciple's heart, and Krishna's there in both hearts, and he works it out. And he reciprocates in such a way that eventually we can surrender to him. And even if you surrender to him, and you still have done something or doing something that's not right, if your intention and if you stay in devotional service, then he considers you a sadhu. But that's an accidental, by force of habit or force of strength of the material energy, not one willfully comes in with an ulterior motive from the beginning. That's another thing. So therefore, in that purport, Prabhupada says, if you find fault with a devotee who has accidental fall down, then you become in a more difficult situation than that person. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you for that lovely discussion. It was beautiful. It was
like old times, right?
Just like old times. You were outside the hallway of my room in Soho Street. Prabhupada Priya.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Glory to Prabhupada. All right, I think we'll stop there. With your permission, we have a program going on in about 20 minutes. I'll let everyone get over there. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Angshung, the Dynasty of Angshungshu, whatever his name is, ki jai. Lord Shiva ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. And tomorrow, I have to announce this. Tomorrow, we're not going to have a reading, because we're going to go over to the Rango Hall at 5:30, and I'm going to have to tolerate sitting there and hearing all these wonderful things. And you can all give me, solace by Hare Krishna. So that'll start at 5:30. So for those of you out in cyberspace, there'll be a broadcast of that at 5:30 for those who want to listen in. And you'll get to hear the offerings, and I think, anyway, I don't know what's going to happen. Who knows what's going to happen? Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.